welcome everybody to another episode of the Johannesburg International Comedy Festival catch-up session, where we talk with some of the international acts that have visited the festival, one of which is one of my favorites, my comedy brother.
There we go.
From another mother, father, or however they identify, Mr. Orlando Baxter.
Oh, thank you, Tats. I'm very happy to be here right now.
Come on, bro. Are you telling jokes? Are you working? Are you depressed? Where are you at, bro?
I'm in between. Like,
Huh?
I think I was depressed when I wasn't doing shows, but the shows have started to slowly pick up, but they're so random now that meaning like, you know, as opposed to having a month schedule or a couple of months schedule of shows, you know, now it's like here and there. And then when you get to the last one, you're like, man, I don't know when my next show is. So there's that type of depression. But I think I've been doing shows now for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Some of them have been outdoors, which is
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you're one of those guys who are very like purist in terms of the craft of stand-up. Like you just want to do the thing. So when you say now it's changed, how have you dealt with like doing shows in drive-ins and doing shows in places like that?
Well, I haven't done the drive-in one. I had one, but it got canceled. But I've done like outdoor ones, which I think outdoors at one point in my life was like, oh, that's like the worst.
Yeah.
And now it's like, if there's a crowd, you're like, all right, well, you know, this is the best we got. Let's do it. It's like the quality shows now, the outdoor ones.
Yeah.
Simply because you can have more people outdoors as opposed to indoors. Now I've done 2 comedy clubs and they're at like 30% capacity because they gotta follow.
What's the number? What's the number of what's 30% in
So for example, if the club holds 250 people,
yeah.
Based on like the social distance requirements and the 6 feet apart, you might be able to fit 70 to 75 people. Room, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
but it's still a room. It's still a good time. I honestly still prefer inside the club because you're not fighting as many you know how it is with stand-up. You're not fighting as many elements. I'm also I mean, I've done the virtual thing.
Oof. Were you good or bad at that? I'm gonna say bad, but I don't want to judge you.
No, I was unhappy.
Yeah.
I was unhappy with the whole situation. I think some were better than others because I've been on ones where you couldn't hear back from the audience, you couldn't see the audience, so it's basically like you're performing in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
There's no feedback. You know, comedy to me is a conversation. It's communication. I talk.
Look.
Right?
Let me tell you about comedy to me, though.
To me, it's communication. I talk, they laugh, or they respond in some way. So when you don't have that element, especially that live element, like you realize that, you know, it's sometimes it's more than just an audience. I think that's what this situation has taught me in terms of before you'd be like, yo, I just need an audience. But what you don't realize is it's the liveness of the audience. It's the actual environment as well, you know? Yes. So I'm not a huge fan of virtual shows, but you know, you gotta adapt, man. I am a chameleon, man. Listen, there's a reason why I enjoy performing internationally, because I think you have to adapt. So I might have my ways about me, but I'm willing to adapt.
Come on. That's something I can definitely attest to, because I've seen you kind of in different countries. But I remember when I first met you, 2015,
Yep.
Were you already like an international act as much as you are now when I met you then?
No, that was the first, when you see me, that was the first time I ever did stand up outside of the US.
Oh man.
So I was still in learning mode, like
In terms of outside of, okay, yeah.
outside of the US, because you don't, for me, I always say for me, because I don't want to speak for everybody. For me, I think that, you know, comedy is one of those things where you don't know until you do. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can think you know, but until you do it, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And then you make your adjustments. So
what, tell me, because I'm going to take people back. 2015, Orlando Baxter and I, we were in Switzerland. We're performing to English-speaking French, Swiss audience predominantly. And I think did we perform on our first night or our second night there?
I think we performed on our second night there. I think the first night you kind of watched some stand-up. I remember.
Hold on, I got my kids running amok. Sorry,
Okay.
man. I was gonna kick some ass. I'll be right back.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
Twenty 2015. Condomize. That was a break in the interview, just to remind people to condomize. 2015, you and I doing stand-up outside of our home countries. What was that experience like for you? And then the second question to that, coming to Johannesburg International Comedy Festival, what was that like for you? Because was it back-to-back? I think it was back-to-back years for you, man.
Yeah, it was back-to-back years for me.
What were the two experiences like?
Well, the first experience was just like pure excitement, not knowing what to expect. Obviously, I've only had the US experience, so I thought it was going to be a certain way. And then when I got there, and you have to understand that, you know, not everything's like the US. Like, this is not the US. Like, the audiences are different. I mean, you got to think about references, which are all things that I wasn't really thinking about, because your jokes are jokes. You know what I mean? Like, so, but it was it was a really, that Switzerland experience was a great experience for me, because for one, you know, it was a new experience. It was my first time going international to perform stand-up. And it was also my first time seeing international comics. So you, Lloyd, Kagiiso, and all the other acts that we've seen, other than Maureen, who I met before, maybe a year before, you know, so it was cool to see. And it also like inspired me in terms of the idea of wanting to perform internationally more. So that was a great experience, but like I said, it was an adjustment. Like, you know, I was learning, you know, and I recall specifically the car ride me, you, and Lloyd had on the way down, and we were having this conversation, and you were acting like you were some like rookie, like,
First of all,
and you know, and I'm a very like laid back type of person, and you know, I'll say my point of view. I don't think I came across as like, I just came across as, oh, these are two good brothers. Yes. I probably had some more experience than them, and let me be helpful. You know what I mean?
And I remember we were very like, tell us, bro, what's it like?
Yeah, but I realize now it was all like some damn act or something. No, I don't think it was an act, but I was just, when I seen you guys perform, I was like, oh, what am I even, I don't need to give these guys any points or tips or anything. These guys are professionals. They're talented, you know what I mean? So it was kind of, that was funny. Like, so I remember that about that thing. The funniest thing, the thing that I talked to my friends about was when I was in, when we were in the hotel and you prank called me pretending to be You're like, Orlando. And I'm like, yeah, man, I only speak English, right? So I remember.
Of course you did.
It took me a second to realize, these guys are assholes too. I like them even more. They're my brothers.
I think I remember because I was trying to push you, and at some point I was like, Mr. Baxter, and then you kept like telling me you couldn't speak English, and then eventually I was like, hey, nigger, I can speak English, and then
yeah, I was like, he's an asshole too. So all right, so these are definitely my brothers. They're my brothers for life now. But like I said, I learned a lot through Switzerland in terms of international, in terms of like adjusting, in terms of just realizing comedy is bigger than the US. And I think when I went to South Africa the first time, that was an amazing experience, just as a Black American going South Africa, just going to the continent of Africa. But I've been before. I went to Morocco actually a very long time ago, and I realized I was like, oh, they don't look like me. I was very ignorant of the what the people were gonna look like when I got there. You know what I mean? But when I went to South Africa, I mean, it was so much love. As far as the comedy went, I had already had a lot of respect between you, Lloyd, Luis Gola, Kagiso, the Goliaths. I already had a bunch of respect for the comedians. Trevor Noah, obviously.
Yeah.
So when I went there, it was as I expected and more. I mean, like a lot of great comedians. The energy of the audiences reminded me of urban audiences in the U.S. in terms of like just that energy, that passion, that love of great comedy, that getting up and running around and so it definitely had that vibe. But even that also was an experience to me as well, because I also got to see other comics from different parts of Africa, like different countries, perform as well. That opened my eyes as well. So like it's been a blessing, man. Like the international opportunities that I've had have helped me develop as a comic, because I think you stop thinking in terms of your jokes. You stop thinking globally. Like, all right, I can say this way, but is it gonna affect the global audience? Like I'm a guy that travels now, so
come on, man.
I try to keep that in mind.
That's crazy, because I think now that I'm talking to an American act who actually does intentionally do the international work, I think like you're the best person to ask, because we can only like make up our mind about why Americans don't travel. But I want to hear it from like an American act. Why do you think there is such a small number of American acts who choose to travel internationally compared to how many comics there are in America itself?
I think, first of all, I think it's unknown. Like, America is so big that, there's still probably hundreds and hundreds of places I've never performed at. You know what I mean? Like, so it's so big, and there's so many different opportunities to work as a comedian, whether you're working at a cruise ship, or whether you're working in colleges, or whether you're working corporate, or whether you're working clubs. There's so many opportunities that you don't think anything outside of the US. And then if you do have the opportunity to go over, I think a lot of people who do have the opportunity to go over and realize like there's this whole other thing. Like if you go to the UK, you're like, oh wow, comedy's huge over here as well. Then I think, but if you limit yourself even to those two places, because we know comedians, US comics like Patrice O'Neill and Bill Hicks and Dennis Leary, they've all been over here, and many more comics have been over here. You think US and UK, and in terms of work, I think financially it doesn't make as much sense, because comedy money is funny all over the world until you're like a huge act. You know
What
what
do
I'm
you
saying?
mean by that?
Meaning like the money is funny. It's not great all over the world. You know what I mean? Like it's a beautiful art form. I think we all have the same struggles within our own, communities. And until you hit a level where you're kind of able to make money and do this for a living, it doesn't make sense to go overseas and perform if you're gonna just not get paid well over there as well. You know, it'd probably be even worse because they'd be like, man, you know, we can't pay you. You got to work hard or something. You know what I mean? Like, so, and then I think it requires more. It requires like a permit or a visa, work visa, and all this other stuff. So I think that those are the two main reasons why. So I think financial reason and then just not knowing. You know what I mean?
I think my last question to you is, what is it about you as an act that you're looking for, that even though you experienced Switzerland for the first time in like 5 years ago, Johannesburg, South Africa, the year after that, and I know for a fact that something happened to you because you started to intentionally do it. So what is it that like resonated with you for this international thing to not be just something that you've done, but something that you continue to push and something you continue to do?
I think it's a combination of two things. First of all, I think it's the friendships that I've made with comedians like yourself. And you know, because I was over there remember I was there March of 2019 as well. You didn't even remember.
Time.
Yeah, I went to the Joburg Fest twice. I went last year. Remember you were hosting a room in that little street area. It was like one of the new clubs, somethingville.
Melville. Yeah. You walked in late. Oh, you did a set.
Yes, I did it. I did a set there. We were at the little restaurant place where they ran out of Wi-Fi. I was like, "What's the password?" And they were like, we have no more. I was putting it in my phone. What do you mean we have no more? Oh, okay. No, you actually don't have any more. We ran out. But
I remember you were so confused.
I was confused.
I was saying.
So I think that's a big reason. The friendships that I've made. I think I enjoy the challenge of it. You know, the opportunity to see if this works over here, and then I just think I have that that adventure in me. Like just imagine. I mean, going and traveling places is cool, but to go to travel places to do stand-up, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's a different type of love. So I think that's why I do it. And then I continue to perform internationally, man. I've been to, I think, about 12 countries now, different countries. And yeah, so, you know, I got that love for it, and that it's not necessarily a money love, but it's more just a love for the art and a love for the people that are in the field.
And on that note, my brother, I do want to say I love the fact that I'm hearing you talk like this, because it tells me that you're still doing okay.
Yeah. I'm still doing all right.
Yeah, you do all right. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Much love. And that's another ep, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Orlando Baxter, Mr. Boston born, huh?
Worcester, Massachusetts. Well, I just say Boston because it's easier.
Yeah, because you know we don't give a fuck about no Mr. Baxter.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
It's why I do it, brother. Come on. Much love, bro.
All right. Peace out, brother.